Welcome back to Pink's Garage. Pink here. Hope everybody's been doing okay. Today we're just doing an oil change on the Mustang. Just come with me as we do it. It's a pretty simple process. Anybody can change their own oil if you've got area to do it. You could do it outside in your driveway if you have to, in a garage, you know, anywhere, as long as you have the right stuff, which is the oil, the tools to remove your oil plug, the filter. Usually if your filter is put on correctly, you shouldn't need a wrench to take it off. You should be able to take it off by hand, and something to drain the oil into so you can take it to a recycle. Where I live, we can go to O'Reilly's or AutoZone and freely dump our oil there, up to so many gallons a week. So we're going to get under the car here, and then we're going to change the oil, and I'll be back.
Okay, so I have the car jacked up, and we're going to remove this pan here on 2016 Mustang. So we're going to remove this pan here to get to the oil filter, which is right here over to the side. I'm not sure if you can see that, but we have a few bolts to remove, and if I'm not mistaken, they are 7mm, and they are. Now that that's out of the way, we have easy access to the oil filter right here, which I'll get after I'm done draining the oil out of the pan. Which for that, I'm going to need to go get the pan to drain. Well, the oil's black, but it looks fairly clean of, you know, metal. I'm not seeing metal flake or anything, so we're just going to wait for this to drain down. After that's done, we'll get the oil filter out, because I have to use the drain pan, because the oil filter is where the real mess happens. Hopefully I'll be able to pull this oil filter out by hand, because I put it in by hand without a wrench. Hopefully my angle that I've got the car at right now is pretty good for draining. It should be. That's keeps that drain plug at the lowest point of the oil pan, so should get a fairly decent drain out of it. We're going to let this continue to run for a little while, and you know, we'll be back to pull the oil filter out in a few minutes. Okay, so now it's time to get to what I consider the messiest part of the oil change, and that's the oil filter. Removing it in this car tends to make somewhat of a mess because there's some stuff in the way. So let's see how it goes. I still can't understand why they always have to put these things where they're so hard to get to, and they don't have an easy way to take them off without just making a mess. want to clean the area as well as I can to make sure all the oil's off and that there's nothing left up there on the oil filter seals go, to make sure it gets a nice clean seal. So when I put it back on, I can just put it on hand tight as usual, and then I can take it off again just like I did on that one without having to use a wrench. Just going to leave some paper towels up there to catch all the oil coming down so it doesn't get all over those wires. And then I will put the new oil filter in after I fill it with oil and lube up the seal on it some. Let that one drain out. So I have the new filter and I've lubed up the seal on it so it'll go on nice and easy. And I've pre-filled it with oil. Always a good thing. And you just, lube it up a little bit. Get this out of the way. Do one last wipe of the old oil off. Get the new filter. Line it up and start screwing it on. Simple process. So the hard part of the oil change is now over. All that's left to do is get this back on, tighten it up, lower the car back down, and fill the engine back up with oil. Pretty simple. There we go, no wrench needed. It's as tight as it needs to be. And just to make sure, when I'm done with this oil change, I will lower the car back down, and start it and let it run for a minute. Then I'll move the car all the way to see if there's any drips. If not, we're good to go.
Welcome back. We've got the car back down on the ground now. Oil change is almost done. All that's left to do is put oil in and check to make sure we have enough. I've already prepped for that. I've taken the oil cap off and got a funnel in, and we are ready to pour our oil. Now, for those of you who don't know, usually I go by the recommended weight for motor oil on the Mustang GT. For this year, it's recommended for a 5W20, as can be seen on the oil cap. 5W20. Easy enough to do that. Just look at the oil cap. Most newer cars will tell you. I run a synthetic oil, so let me put the oil in and we'll get on with this. You want to pour kind of slow because you don't want it to overflow while you're filling and you don't want to spill it. So I try my best not to spill. As you saw, I cleaned up all my messes under the car. I don't want to get any on top of the car. The 2015 through 2017 Mustang GT require 8 quarts of oil. So I will put in 8 quarts of oil, and after that I will check the dipstick to make sure we're at the right level. So when filling with 5 quarts and I need 8, what I generally do is there's usually a line on the jugs to tell you how many quarts are being used. So what you could do is when you're looking is look at the delineation lines here of 4 quarts. It means top was 5. So down to here I've put 1 quart in. That'd be 2 quarts, 3 quarts, 4 quarts, and then 5 at the bottom. So I needed to put in 3, so I'm going to get it down to where it says 2 quarts, and then we'll be good. Almost there, about a half quart to go. So now that I've put in my full 8 quarts, I'm going to check the oil level after I let it settle for a bit because it takes a little time for it to get back down into the oil pan. So oil check is way over on the other side. So if you've never changed your own oil on the dipstick, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. If you can look right there, it's not going to zoom in on this. There's a right here. There's a hash mark area with cross marks. It's generally the high-low zone, and you want your oil to be within that zone. Too little oil, and your engine can not lubricate all the parts it needs to lubricate, and that can cause major problems. Too much oil and you can have too high oil pressure, and that can create even other problems. So it's always good to make sure it's within those marks, not too high, not too low. A little harder getting this in and out with the cross member on here and the K member. Something my car did not come with. So I'm looking at it now, and I am right to the top of the hash marks. I should be pretty good. So I'm going to put this back in, and we will start the car in a few minutes to check to make sure that we're not leaking down below anywhere. And I'll check that dipstick again in a few minutes just to make sure it's stayed in between the hash marks, because like I said, it's a little colder out. It's not like cold because I'm wearing a t-shirt, but the oil can take a little longer to get down to the bottom. I want to make sure I don't have too much. If I've got too much, it's easy enough to drain just a little bit out. I've always found it's a lot nicer to be able to do your own maintenance on your car, whether it be spark plugs, in older cars, spark plug wires, distributors, rotors, caps, all that fun stuff. I've done that on numerous cars that I've owned. and I'll continue to do it, as long as I can. I prefer to maintain my own car. That way I know it's gone into it. I know how it's been taken care of. And I am more assured with my work than I am with somebody else's.
A few moments later.
So it's been a few minutes. We're going to check one last time on the dipstick before we start the car. Oh, she looks good. We're going to start the car now. Don't forget the oil cap. We don't want oil going everywhere. So, no drips. Car started up just fine. Ran it for a while, let it get up to temp. Let it get up to pressure, made sure oil pressure was fine at oil temp normal. And it was, so good to go. So, this has been Pink with Pink's Garage. Keep those motors running, and I'll see you next time.